So good. With that, I am going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Frances Sadi. I am the Associate Director of Non-Degree Programs here at Brown University School of Professional Studies. So part of my job is I oversee the portfolio of mindfulness programs, both the short courses that we offer, as well as our teacher training certificate programs as well. So this particular information session is going to focus on the general mindfulness courses that we offer. I will touch briefly upon the teacher training certificate pathways. So if you are here because you're interested in teacher training, you are welcome to stay. And usually we'll have some time at the end and I can address your questions then. But do know that we have separate information meetings every month for both the MBSR teacher training pathway and the MBCT teacher training pathway. So those are run by the teachers themselves, and so they can get into a lot more detail about the specifics of those programs. So with that, I'm going to start. In the meantime, definitely if you do have questions, feel free to enter those into the chat. But as I said, we'll have time at the end where we can come off mute and you can ask your questions live as well. Okay. Okay, so in my presentation, I'm going to talk briefly about what mindfulness is and how the evidence behind it has pointed to the benefits of mindfulness, as well as some of the science behind the mechanisms of how we think mindfulness might work. And then I'll jump into an overview of our programs, talking mostly about our short 8-week classes. So there's mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. One of the most common questions we get is, what's the difference between those two? So I'll talk about that specifically. We also offer a program called Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And then we also have an 8-week mindfulness-based course that focuses on heart health. And then, like I said, I will touch briefly upon the teacher training pathways. We also have some custom and workplace programming that we offer, so I can give you information on that. And then I'll get into the specifics about when our next classes will be held and how to enroll if you're interested, as well as we have a number of free offerings that we can point you to here as well. And then we'll open it up for questions. Okay. So before we get into the programs themselves, I always like just to kind of pause and back up a bit and talk about what mindfulness is and why it really matters. So it should come as no surprise that, in our current landscape and modern world, it's really not without its challenges. So stress, burnout, exhaustion, divisiveness, and conflict, it's all pretty pervasive. So there was one recent survey that revealed that about 77% of workers experience work-related stress in the past month, with about 57% of workers reporting negative impacts such as emotional exhaustion, decreased motivation. And it's really not just that, but our ability to focus has really declined significantly in the past few decades with distractions abounding. So this data is dated, but according to data put out by the University of California, the average worker checks their email 74 times a day, toggles between digital screens an average of 566 times a day, and then goes on social media around 21 different times throughout the day. And that data is about 10 years old, so it's only gone up since then. And then, so beyond stress and distraction, we are also a society that really struggles incredibly with mental and physical health. According to National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, approximately 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness each year, with about 1 in 20 experiencing serious mental illness. Globally, 27% of adults and over 80% of adolescents do not meet the World Health Organization's recommended levels of physical activity. And also that chronic diseases are extremely pervasive in developed nations. A recent Market Watch report noted that the US has reached its lowest rank of 24th on the global happiness scale, and that data just came out a few months ago. So, um, without a doubt, people are hurting, and it's really unclear what to do about it. And so these realities undoubtedly can take a toll on us as individuals, but they also impact our communities and the organizations in which we work. And more broadly, they impact and reflect kind of the underlying culture of our national and global societies and some of the struggles that we're seeing in the last several decades, or more recently, the last decade or so. So, we as individuals and societies really can't afford to not do something about this. So, here at Brown, we believe that mindfulness is not just a practice, but rather it is really an innate skill, something that everyone is born with, that can be harnessed and strengthened in order to transform individuals, workplaces, and communities for good. So a bit about how what it is and how it works. So this is really probably one of the most common definitions out there, and there are a few. So John Kabat-Zinn is the founder of a program called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR, and I'll talk a little bit more about the history there in a moment. But he defines mindfulness as this. It is the awareness that arises when paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and doing that non-judgmentally or with friendliness, as my colleague likes to say. And so I paired with that, I always like to share this slide and definition as well. So there's a lot of hype around mindfulness, and particularly in the last couple of decades, it's like kind of pervasive, and the quality of programming out there is quite varied. And so when mindfulness is really starting to become more mainstream and was ramping up, a group of scientists and clinical psychologists, this is back in the early 2000s, actually got together and said, you know what, before we know that mindfulness is here to stay, and before it gets too widespread, it's going to be researched, and it's really important to have what they call an operational definition. And so that's to really come up with a definition that's standardized so that when it is researched, it's very clear and it's consistent on what we mean by mindfulness. And what I love about this is that I'm not going to read it, but it maps really well to John Kabat-Zinn's definition. So there's really two components to mindfulness. And the first involves being able to train your mind, just like you go to the gym and work out your muscles, being able to actually train your mind to be able to pay attention to the present moment. So you can practice that formally as well as informally. But this concept that, it's actually something that you can get better at. And there's obvious benefits to doing that. And then the second component to what mindfulness is involves this shifting of shifting your posture to the world and the data that you're intaking through your thoughts, your feelings, your bodily sensations. It's shifting to a posture of curiosity, openness, and acceptance. So that's in John's definition, that non-judgmentalness. And so if you think about it in the flip or in the reverse, you can go about life kind of more of in a closed or judgmental posture. So there is a lot of data around the benefits of being able to practice to shift your posture to more curiosity and openness, and that there's many benefits to that. And so in the mindfulness training that we offer, we really kind of touch upon both of those components. I won't spend too much time on this, but this is a well-respected theoretical framework for how mindfulness meditation might actually work, and how it actually positively impacts our ability to control our behaviors, including being more readily equipped to kind of direct our thoughts on the things we want to be able to sit with our feelings, and also be able to direct our actions on the tasks that we want to choose to. So 3 ways. So the first is I already touched upon it, but it's kind of through attention control. And so again, just simply that, being able to focus our attention on a task at hand for a sustained period at a time. And then the second is through emotion regulation. So emotion regulation, it's not about controlling or shutting down our emotions. It's rather really learning to be able to identify and sit with any emotion that arises. So, you know, as humans, emotions come and go, and none of them are going to stay forever. And so, just being able to kind of learn more about what emotions we're experiencing, there's a lot of data to suggest, the more you try to repress or fight an emotion, it actually can have really detrimental effects. So, instead, being able to kind of ride the wave of an emotion and learn from it and have it kind of see it more with openness and curiosity, see it as it being able to inform your present moment so that you can then react in a way that aligns with your values, and also allows you to kind of stay focused on whatever task you have at hand and not live life in kind of more of a reactive mindset. Okay, and then the last piece or the mechanism that mindfulness meditation seems to impact is our work is through self-awareness, which speaks to our ability to really be able to check in with our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations as they arise. It allows us, as I kind of talked about it, if you view all of those things, those three things, as data that you can learn to kind of take in and read and learn from. And from there, it really allows you to be uh, more informed about what's unfolding in the present moment and then be able to intentionally shift or direct your behaviors in a way that aligns again with your values and intentions. Okay. This slide it's great. This is showing the rise in mindfulness research. So these are peer-reviewed mindfulness articles. And as you can see, so John Kabat-Zinn first developed mindfulness-based stress reduction in 1979, and then it spread from there and kind of rose globally, was starting to be taught globally. And so really in the early 2000s, back when that operational definition was developed, is when the research really started to skyrocket. And this ends at 2020, so the curve actually just continues to go up. So as of just a few months ago, there were already 30,000 more than 30,000 peer-reviewed research publications on mindfulness found in PubMed. Encourage you to go check it out if you have access to PubMed. Okay, so a bit about the known benefits to mindfulness. It's like I said, there's been decades of research on this, particularly around mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is has the most data on it. So it's been shown to have a number of health benefits across a wide range of health outcomes, including the management of chronic pain and as well as acute pain. So there have been numerous studies on this, and so several of them suggest that MBSR may reduce pain-related distress, pain intensity, as well as functional limitations in people with chronic pain. And there's also evidence that mindfulness not just helps with the pain itself, but also what experts called it's this like second layer of pain. It's called pain catastrophizing. So basically, this applies for chronic pain, but also for like anxiety. So you've got dealing with the pain itself, the physical pain, and then on top of that is all of the uh, anxiety or rumination or fear, kind of that second layer of difficulty that emerges in having to deal with chronic pain. So say you've got chronic pain and you're thinking about going out on a social event with some friends, and you might be anxious because you're like not sure if you're going to have to leave early due to the pain, or if you might not be able to interact in a way that's enjoyable. So there's evidence that mindfulness also helps kind of reduce that second layer as well. As you can imagine, there's strong evidence that MBSR reduces stress and also directly helps with exhaustion and burnout, which are significant health concerns among workers, but also something that, like I pointed out earlier, is something we're seeing across the board with people of all ages and backgrounds. Mindfulness can also help people with anxiety and depression um, by training them. So it seems like the mechanisms there, it's really by training them to be able to remain training individuals who suffer from anxiety and depression. When you are anxious or depressed, a lot of your time is spent in ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. And so by training to be able to kind of be in the present moment, there's evidence that that is why it can reduce anxiety and depression or lower recurrence of those conditions. There was even a 2015 trial and then a more recent trial found that MBSR was as effective as antidepressants. I think they compared it to Lexapro for preventing depression from recurring. And we actually had the author of that study came to Brown and hosted a talk with us. You can find it on YouTube. I can put a link to that talk in the chat in a moment as well, if you're interested. So almost done. So mindfulness has been shown to also have significant improvements to sleep quality, as well as reduction in blood pressure among those with uncontrolled hypertension. And then lastly, mindfulness is also renowned for its cognitive, emotional, and psychological outcomes, including increasing self-compassion, boosts to working memory, increased ability to focus, and improvements in ability to regulate and control emotions. Okay. So if you visit our website, you'll see that we offer a number of short 8-week mindfulness-based programs, which are designed to really allow you to begin the cultivation of mindfulness skills and competencies if you're new to mindfulness. But we have individuals who take these courses over and over again and who've been meditating for years, and they get something different out of it every time. So designed for both. Oh, gotta go back. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to touch briefly upon each of these and then I'll go into more detail. So we've got mindfulness-based stress reduction or MBSR, and then 3 adaptations of MBSR. So we've got mindfulness-based cognitive therapy or MBCT, finding peace in a frantic world. And then we also offer a program called mindfulness-based blood pressure reduction or MBBP. And I will get into the details of all of those. But before I move on, I just always like to point out, so as I said, you can find mindfulness training online, and there are a number of organizations out there that offer training in mindfulness, and a lot of those are wonderful. But one of the things that really sets us apart is that we are highly committed to making sure our programs are evidence-based. So we partner with the Mindfulness Center over at the School of Public Health here at Brown University. And that is a leading global hub of mindfulness researchers. And the director of that center actually serves as our academic director. His name is Dr. Eric Laux. And so we will only offer programs that we know are rounded in evidence-based practices and curriculum. And then all of our classes, most of them are taught online, although we try to offer some in-person offerings a couple times a year as well as we do custom programming as well that can be hybrid or in-person. Okay, so now I want to go through each of the programs, starting with MBSR. So I've talked about this a little bit, but this is really kind of considered the gold standard for mindfulness-based programs. It was first created by John Kabat-Zinn at UMass Medical Center in Worcester, Massachusetts back in 1979. So John was a microbiologist and clinician by training. He trained at MIT, and he was working in Worcester, Massachusetts at the UMass Medical Center. And so he had a background in meditative practices, and he was working in this medical center, and he was friends with a lot of clinicians, and he was talking to them about, how many patients do you think you actually can help? he was having a conversation with them and talking about this, and they were like, really not as many as you would think. So Western medicine is great, but there are a significant portion of individuals who really, Western medicine can only do so much. Some people get better on their own. Some people don't get better. And so with this background in meditation, John was like, I think I could develop a program that would be able to, particularly with individuals with chronic pain, and that was kind of what they were focusing on, was that developing a program that takes um, this idea of meditation and mindfulness and allows individuals struggling with stress or chronic pain, or really just kind of recurring issues that are not able to be um, fixed right away. You develop an 8-week program that would really allow them to kind of grow in self-awareness and be able to kind of feel empowered to take in that data about themselves and to see what happens. So that was kind of the history behind MBSR. There's a really good documentary that was done on it, I believe by Bill Moyers, that you can find on YouTube, about that. And there's they actually traveled to Worcester, and so there's filming from, I think, in the 90s, with John and the patients there, and it was so successful that now it's taught all around the world. There's more than 50 years of data on this program, and that a lot of these other mindfulness programs that you see out there are largely just adaptations of MBSR. So it's evidence-based. It's not grounded in any particular faith tradition. In fact, we've got individuals from all different faith backgrounds that take MBSR, and a lot of the feedback we get is that it really does pair nicely with whatever worldview or faith tradition that you come from. That you can find a lot of, it just crosses over really nicely. It's the most rigorously researched, as I mentioned. And in the class itself, uh, I'll talk more about this in a second, but it's really designed to teach you both formal and informal mindfulness practices. So by formal practices, I'm talking kind of the traditional guided meditations. So you'll learn like how to do a body scan, a sitting meditation, an attentional awareness practice, where again it's like that, training your mind to be able to focus on something, so that when you get out into the real world, you have more control over your focus and attention. But then there's also this whole wealth of training on informal mindfulness practices. So in the class, you'll you'll be invited to engage in practices such as taking a mindful walk or eating a meal mindfully. We as Americans definitely have a somewhat unhealthy relationship with food, whether that's overeating or whatever. But there's something about slowing down and actually being able to eat a meal mindfully, so that you can be more in tune with like when you're actually full, or if you're stress eating. So there's a lot of evidence there around that practice, as well as like just brushing your teeth mindfully and just being able to be more present. Um, in social interactions, or when you're having a conversation with your partner or your kids, for example. My kids always are the first ones to say, "Mom, are you even paying attention to me?" So there's a lot of benefit to be able to practice mindfulness, so that you can actually be present and give whoever you're engaging with your full presence. And then I also like to just point out, this is not group therapy. So the classes themselves usually have around 30 individuals in them. And yes, there'll be breakout sessions and opportunity for engaging in really thoughtful dialogue. But the conversations are really steered around your engagement and relationship and experience with the mindfulness practices, and not about like revealing everything that's going on in your life. Although individuals, I've taken MBSR twice, and it is really one of the things I love about it is you do get to engage with individuals all over the world if you're taking it online, or in person, kind of local community. And there's just something really nice about kind of walking through this practice together and getting to know each other a little bit, and just hearing the stories and the impact that the training is having on people kind of always blows my mind at how impactful it is. Okay. So here are the classes themselves. The next, so we're in the middle of our fall classes have already started up. So the next session, we do this quarterly, is going to start at the start of the new year. And so how these programs work, so it's an 8-week class. You come to class online or in person, depending on what you're taking, once per week for 2.5 hours at a time. And it starts with an orientation, and then there's the 8 weeks. There's also an all-day session that takes place around week 5 of the class. And so this all-day session is really designed. Well, let me back up actually. So the class itself, 2.5 hours per week, it's a lot, but it's very intentional. The idea of that is that most of that time is actually spent in practicing mindfulness. And so I mentioned I've taken it twice. I have 3 children. I'm super busy. I have tried to develop a practice on my own and have failed numerous times. I've downloaded apps. I've tried to carve out time, and it's just really, really hard. Also, just based on my personality, it's really hard for me to get into a routine with it. So that being said, taking the class those 2 different times, each time I got something completely different out of it. The first time my background is not in meditation. I actually trained in public health. I ran clinical research studies for over 15 years here at Brown. And so when I first got involved with mindfulness, it was more on the research end. And so my boss at the time knew that we were going to be running a clinical trial on a mindfulness intervention. And so he sent me off to take MBSR. And so when I was taking MBSR, I remember going through it and thinking, this is nice, but I would say I was kind of skeptical. I didn't know what I was getting out of it. It wasn't really until the class ended that I could start to see, and people around me noticed it as well, like, wow, I think it really rewired my brain in the way I react. I found I was less reactive to emotional situations or relational situations. I felt like almost like time kind of slowed down and my priorities became kind of more apparent to me. And so I was able to make kind of more informed decisions on how I wanted to spend my time. So yeah, that was my experience. And so I think, and the data suggests the same, that even just going through the class, the 8 weeks, that it has, I think the data says that it kind of the effects can last about up to 18 months, even if you don't end up practicing meditation after that. We try to offer the classes at different days and times. So that's the variety there. I also like to point out we're trying to do an in-person offering twice per year. So the next one, we've got one going on right now in the fall, but we have one that's going to be in the spring on Wednesday evenings, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting at the end of March. And so we are in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. So if you are in the Rhode Island, New England area and you're interested in that, highly recommend checking it out. But there will be other online classes in the spring as well. Okay, the programs I want to talk about now, I'm going to go a little bit quicker because they are all very similar. They're adaptations of MBSR. So the next one I'm going to talk about is called Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy, or MBCT. This is the most researched adaptation of MBSR, and it is an evidence-based and experiential mindfulness program that combines training in mindfulness meditation with principles from cognitive behavioral therapy or cognitive therapy. So it was a program it was designed by researchers at the university, or they were clinicians at the time, at the University of Oxford Mindfulness Center in the UK. So Mark Williams, Zindel Siegel, and John Teasdale. And so they designed this program to specifically help participants break free from patterns that contribute to repeated and prolonged episodes of depression, but also anxiety or other difficult mood states. So I would say the biggest difference between MBSR and MBCT is that one, there's a lot of similarity. They're both 8-week programs. going to teach you the same um, informal and formal mindfulness practices. Much of the curriculum is the same, but the biggest difference is that MBCT spends a lot of that time applying the practices to focusing on uh, what I would call like your feeling landscape or your thoughts and feelings that are known to contribute to repeated cycles of depression or anxiety or just difficult mood states. And so it tries to like use mindfulness to break out of those well-worn habitual patterns and kind of step away and um, develop new pathways for those thoughts and feelings and the ways that you react to those thoughts and feelings. And so MBSR also has shown to have positive effects on reducing depression and anxiety, but it also kind of focuses more broadly. So like I said, chronic pain and other health outcomes as well. Whereas MBCT is really more focused on specifically depression, anxiety, and difficult mood states. Okay, so we offered usually 2 sections of MBCT every quarter. So here's the winter and the spring classes. They have been, and they are for the next 2 cycles, typically offered on a Tuesday morning and then a Wednesday evening are kind of our 2 options there. But same structure, orientation, and then 8 weekly sessions that are 2.5 hours per week. MBCT at this time is only taught online. And there's also the all-day class that takes place around week 5. And it's actually kind of nice. The all-day class, the way that it's set up is that you actually log on for that all-day session um, with all the other MBSR and MBCT classes. So you join as well as all graduates of these programs. So if you take this class and you complete it, you will be invited every quarter. You'll be invited to join our all-day sessions for free as just a opportunity to kind of continue your practice and to be in a community of individuals that are going through this class. And so it's quite nice. It's a silent retreat. One of the things, I mean, not everyone gets the opportunity to actually go through a whole day without saying anything besides kind of engaging in these guided practices that you're learning, and yet you're still in a community with others. So it's quite powerful because you're online with all of these individuals, but you're kind of going through it individually in silence. And at the end, then there's this opportunity to kind of engage about what that was like to step away in that way. It is online. One of the questions we get is like, how the heck do you expect me to be online all day long? There's lots of opportunities for breaks. And then they also invite you to do some of the activities like take a mindful walk or do mindful exercise, light movements and stuff. So you're kind of encouraged to get up and move around. So you're not just stuck to a screen all day. Okay. I'm just going to put the link to this in the chat. We have one of our if you're not sure which is best for you, MBSR, MBCT, one of our teachers actually wrote a blog on this, which is found here. MBSR versus MBCT. And then we've got Finding Peace in a Frantic World. This is an adaptation of MBCT, and it's an abridged shortened version. So basically, rather than meeting for 2.5 hours per week, Finding Peace has you come to class 1 hour per week. There's no all-day session. There's no orientation. So it's really designed to be a more accessible, like practical program for beginners and those with busy lives and limited time. So it kind of is like just like a sampling of the practices. You're not going to spend as much time actually like building out and developing like those muscles. But it is, if you're curious about what mindfulness is and you want to begin to develop a practice, this is a great course. And it's highly interactive as well. The classes are small, so you get to ask a lot of questions about mindfulness and the science and neuroscience behind it, as well as learning the practices themselves. And this was developed by Mark Williams and Danny Penman at the University Oxford Center as well, and it's based on their best-selling book, Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And here's the upcoming class. It's going to run January 20th through March 10th, Tuesday evening, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, last program. So mindfulness-based blood pressure reduction is an 8-week program adapted from MBSR. This one's near and dear to my heart because I actually worked on it for we ran a 5-year clinical trial sponsored by the National Institute of Health, looking at MBBP, and it is a program specifically designed for individuals with elevated or uncontrolled hypertension or blood pressure, as well as anyone with other cardiovascular risk factors. So it's going to teach the same mindfulness meditative practices, but it's going to teach it and apply it from week 1. You're going to be asked early on in the program to kind of figure out for what particular risk factors you'd want to focus on. So whether that's stress, poor diet, smoking, high salt intake, poor medication adherence, et cetera, physical activity, et cetera. So you kind of identify what risk factors are unique to you that you want to improve. And then throughout the course, they're going to have you take those mindfulness practices that you're learning and actually apply them and on the risk factors you've identified so that you can kind of make improvements there. And so the data behind it is quite strong. We've published a number of research articles on it. I highly recommend you just Google it. Dr. Eric Laux is the investigator, mindfulness-based blood pressure reduction. There should be open source articles, so free and access to the public. You can see what data is there. But basically, the summary of the findings is that we did find in a randomized clinical trial, control trial, with over 200 participants, that the MBBP compared to an enhanced usual care trial found that it reduced hypertension, systolic blood pressure to clinically significant levels compared to the control group. It also showed improvements in diet, sedentary behavior, as well as increasing individuals' mindfulness and self-awareness. I already mentioned this, but this is really for anyone with high blood pressure, but also anyone who really wants to improve their heart health. So here are the upcoming winter classes. And if you are at all, if you or someone you know would be interested in this program, this is a really great opportunity because the creator of the program himself is going to be teaching it this winter. And I don't think he's going to teach for very long. He's kind of in the stages of building out the teacher training pathway for it. So that's why he's teaching it. So highly, highly recommend taking it with him. He's wonderful. Okay, as I mentioned, this is not going to be the focus of today's session, but this is, we do offer teacher training, both for MBSR teacher training certificate and MBCT teacher training. And then we also do custom mindfulness programs for workplaces and organizations. So if you think your organization might benefit from that, let me know and I can send you the form for that as well. And then I'm going to put this into the chat, but we offer a number of free, in addition to our info sessions, we offer a number of free programmings, speaker series, master classes, etc. Here is that. Okay. Put this down. Yeah, so one of the speaker series we've got going is called The Evolution of Mindfulness. So this is looking at, we're bringing in researchers and really just leaders in the field, as well as emerging leaders in the field, and looking at, we kicked off the series back last January with John Kabat-Zinn. And then we've had a number of really well-known, respected researchers and leaders and speaking to just the different ways in which they've used mindfulness in their research and also in their practice. And so we're really excited. The next talk is going to be November 5th. It's going to be with Paula Ramirez, who is a MBSR teacher and peace builder and also anthropologist. She has taught MBSR all over the world and has actually teaches through the United Nations as well. And so she's going to share, she's going to talk about how mindfulness-based programs can honor local traditions, cultural worldviews, and ancestral practices, and really kind of exploring what's possible when mindfulness is adapted with humility and care to be administered in different cultures and settings. And so we're quite excited about that. Okay, that is it on my end. I went longer than I normally do. Apologies. I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for questions. Thank you for your patience. And feel free to either chat questions, or if you feel comfortable unmuting yourself and coming online with your voice, that would be fine. Super casual. It's a quiet group. That's fine.
Hey, Francis. It's
Yeah.
Stephen. I'll come on real quick. So I've gone through the 8-week MBSR course. It's been a couple of years, and I've got an ongoing practice. I am interested in the teacher
Mhm.
training pathway. So I saw the link, and I actually just registered for that. But my question is, I don't have a master's degree, and it seems like there are ways to go about that without having that advanced degree.
Mhm.
Do you have any insight there? And it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, great question. And you do not need a graduate degree. It's like a graduate degree or equivalent, but really what they're looking for is, these courses are quite rigorous. So
Mhm.
they just want to ensure that everyone in the courses are able to engage in a way and think analytically and engage in a way that's not going to be like frustrating for you. So there's a form that they'll have you fill out, just kind of demonstrating like through your work or whatever that that you can take the classes and there's not
Okay.
concerned. So let me, for everyone here, I'm just going to put my email in the chat. Um, Stephen, if you want to just email me, I can connect you with the individual who could give you the form and more information about it.
Awesome. That's more than helpful. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. And good luck with the training.
Appreciate it.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Of course. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, you said there's a Bill Moyers YouTube about MBS,
Yeah.
and you would put the link in the chat, and I don't see it.
Okay, let me do that now.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. MBSR John candidates. Yeah, I think this is it. I hope this is it, but if not, I can find it. But let me also, I know I put it somewhere else. Uh, all right. Well, I'll look later. Linda, do you want to go next?
Yes, do you have a link for the information about teacher training pathways?
Yes, I do. Yeah, in fact, I have quite a few links I can share. Here is for our MBSR teacher training. This is how to get to the information on that. And then this is MBCT teacher training. And you'll see on each of those sites, there's a toolbar on the left-hand side where you can click through and see the courses that are required, the tuition. And then I definitely recommend, if you haven't already, to attend an info session that are specific to the training pathways, because the teachers are going to run those. They're going to get really into the nuts and bolts of everything. And they also are available to meet one-on-one for like a 20-minute free advising session. And so take advantage of that as well, because you can meet with them and actually be able to give some background on who you are and what you're thinking about, and they can kind of help you map out what that pathway would look like. Um, the other thing I always like to share is that, we really want our classes to be accessible for everyone. And I understand that financially that can be burdensome. So we have a tuition assistance application that I just put the link into. So we are able to offer tuition assistance either in the form of discounted tuition, as well as we can do kind of an extended payment plan. So that can be helpful. And then here's I already put the event form in there, I think. But if not, there's that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions?
No, that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Of course. And then I want to make sure I find the right Bill Moyer special for you, Stephen. So MBSR, John Kabat-Zinn.
Hello.
Hi.
I've got a question regarding the nature of the programs.
Mhm.
For the MBSR, which is 8 week, is it theoretical or more practical? Are we going to practice, and is it the online, is it live, or
Yeah,
is it recorded and we just have to watch it like that?
yeah, wonderful questions, Christina. And sorry, I didn't tell you that. So they're online, but they are live. So we have a teacher, and you'll show up with others, students taking the class as well. Usually the MBCT classes are a little bit smaller, around 20 individuals, and then the MBSR classes usually have around 25 to 30 individuals in them. And so each session is taught live. In order to kind of complete the class, we do ask that you attend at least six out of the 8 live sessions. But because we offer so many sessions each quarter, if you know you're going to miss a class, you just let the instructor know, and they can give you the schedule for other classes that week. And they can connect you so that you could join a different class, say you're traveling, or if you were sick and wanted to join a later class in the week, you could do that. And they're also, all our teachers are wonderful, so they can always connect with you directly and give you the information that you might have missed. And then the other question you asked about is it theoretical or experiential? And I would say it's a touch theoretical. For the 8-week classes, they get into more about the neuroscience of mindfulness. We think it's really important to be able to kind of understand. Part of the process is kind of understanding how our minds work, and so that helps you kind of to kind of buy into the practices, but also just it's helpful to understand how our minds work and be informed. And so they definitely touch upon that. But most of the classes in the 8-week class is really experiential. It's really thoughtfully laid out, so you don't jump into doing like 40-minute meditations. You start out really slow, like a 10-minute meditation. And I'll tell you, it's amazing because, like, in the beginning, even when I took the class a second time, and I'm like steeped in mindfulness for my job, but taking it again, and it's amazing. I'm sitting here and it's so hard to sit for 10 minutes and my mind is wandering, but they're so patient, and it's to be expected. And so it's just, it wanders, and then you bring it back. It wanders, and you bring it back. And by the end of the 8 weeks, even by like week 6, or when you do the all day session, I'm like, I can sit all day. And yes, my mind can still wander, but like it's amazing how much just that training, you can come so far with your ability to kind of sit with yourself and your thoughts and your feelings. And yeah, so it's very experiential, and they offer a very wide range of practices too, because people are different. And so not every practice is going to really resonate or be helpful. So for some people, the mindful walking is like life-changing because yeah, or mindful eating or the body scan or whatever. So you end up with a whole set of tools in your toolkit to be able to walk away from the class and be able to use as you go about your daily life.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
How do you enroll?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, so let me actually, our website, let me share my screen. I like to do this. All right, so if you go to the School of Professional Studies website, this is us. All our mindfulness programs are tucked under this academics, mindfulness education. Make my screen bigger. Oh, I have it really small. Yeah, so from here, academics, mindfulness education. Okay, so scroll down. On this landing page, you can see all the different programs I talked about. So you can actually click if you think you want to take MBSR, click on that, gives you more information about it. But this is where you can click register. And this is where you're going to see all our winter classes are open for enrollment right now. So you can click through and say, okay, oh, here's the Monday evening one. Here's our Tuesday morning. And so from there is where you can register it and then check out and whatever. So, and that's the case for all the programs. And then on the left-hand side, as I mentioned, you can find more information about events, quick links to our teacher training pathways. Here's about MBSR teacher training. So you should be able to kind of navigate from there and find all the classes that you're interested in. But if you ever run into any issues, you can email me directly, or the other, this is our main inbox. So you can always email this, and this is monitored by a number of individuals. Any other questions? Okay. Well, it's good to see everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to connect, and reach out if anything else comes up. Otherwise, we hope to see you in one of our upcoming programs.
Thank you so much. Very helpful today.
Take care.
Thank you.